Hey guys, John Faulkner here with Modern Alpha Life, and today I'm joined by Adam Peeney as we discuss our 22 builds and deep dive into what 22s mean to us and kind of what we look for in 22 rifles. Today I'm joined by Adam Peeney.
Yep, the one and only.
The one and only. Trust me, we don't need two of them. And today we are going to be talking about probably one of my favorite topics in the world.
Things we waste money on that cost entirely too much for what they are.
That pretty much defines every episode that we have here. But today we're really going to be talking about 22 rifles and, how versatile they are. How
versatility is key.
And literally, like, it doesn't matter how many rifles you have. Every single collection has to have a 22 in it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's the only caliber.
Yeah. I mean, they're 22 is great because of the versatility that you can that a cartridge brings into it, from being great for suppressors, awesome for teaching people how to shoot, cool light varmint hunting, and it's cheap, man. Like, you can go where it's redneck NATO, so you can buy ammo at Walmart. They do everything from high velocity velocitors, yes, leaning in and emphasizing the velocitor. Match ammo from Lapua, Federal, SK, Gila, CCI. I mean, it's that one kind of do-all cartridge that, I mean, if you had to, if you want to teach your kids how to shoot, or you want to teach, really recoil-sensitive people how to shoot, they love 22s. And they're Hollywood quiet.
Call them recoilophobics.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like most of us grew up shooting 22s. And I feel like it's one of the only cartridges where, like, no matter what, it never gets boring.
Yeah. And the ammo could be 64 years old and it still works.
Right.
I mean, I've shot stuff that I'm like, I don't know if the dirt outside my house is older.
I will say, CCI, talking about old ammo boxes, I will say that, like, 22 ammo is one of those ammos where, like, you'll find the old design boxes. Dude, like the yellow sleeves of CCI mini mags, like the yellowish orange ones. Mm-hmm. You're like, when did they stop producing these things?
Yeah, old shotgun boxes and 22 boxes have always been there's always been collectors of them.
So let's talk about, let's just go down, some of the 22s that you have, and I'll go over some of the ones that I have as well.
Singular. I have a 22.
That's sad. Those are rookie numbers.
My 22 cost a small fortune.
Those are rookie numbers.
No, not when you look at the dollars that are into it.
All right. Why, and we're going to discuss this, but, you've had a lot of 22s.
Yeah, I've owned a bunch in my life.
And currently,
this is the only one I currently want to ever keep.
He only has one.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I've owned 1022s. I've owned CZ 455s, 457s. I've had Anschutz rifles. I've had Savages. I mean, I've been through them all.
Did you ever have a 1522 M&P? 1522?
For like 8 minutes.
8 minutes, that's it, huh?
Yeah, I bought it. I was like, I'm going to SBR this thing. And I was like, that was a silly idea. I got rid of it. It's a great gun. It's actually, in the semis, it's probably one of the more fun guns, especially because, I mean, it's almost a copy of an M4. Outside of the weight-wise, it's pretty, the controls are same. You can use the same triggers. But I was just like, this is not something I am ever going to use for anything more. Like this gun that I spent a significant amount of money on.
And if you're not watching this podcast, if you're listening, Adam, tell us a little bit about your current build that you have spread out across an almost 6-foot table here.
Yeah, so it's a big 22. It's a Voodoo Rifles V22 rimfire action. It has a 22-inch Lilja 3-groove barrel that the guys at Whidden Gunworks did for me. It's sitting in an MPA comp chassis with a Leupold Mark V 5-25 PR2 optic on it. It's almost a 1-for-1 copy of my 308, and I use it for just target shooting, practice in my backyard because I can run CCI quiet. And it is the silliest thing ever. And
when you talk about target shooting, we're not talking about 50 yards.
No.
So last week we were at the range and you were hitting steel at
410 yards.
Yeah. And it'll go further.
Yeah, I mean, it shoots the same accuracy at 100 yards as my 308s and my 6 Dashers. Like, it hammers with certain ammunition. And that's the thing when you get into the higher grade 22s, that ammunition is really where it makes a difference. Yeah. This gun shoots SK long range, Lapua Center X really, really well. It actually, surprisingly, that Federal 45 grain suppressor stuff, it shoots that really well too. I can use it for positional practice. I can use it for 22 ELR. I've shot a variety of different critters with it. I mean, it's super flexible, but it was a purpose-built gun. I wanted something I could run rimfire ammo, get good training, and if I wanted to use it for other stuff, I could as well. And it does a very, very good job at that.
Yeah, and I've had similar builds in the past. I had a Voodoo for a while that had a integrally suppressed barrel, which, as you'll see as we go through some of my rifles here, I love integrally suppressed barrels. On 22s, I think every 22 should be suppressed, but that's just me.
If you're in a state that can't have a suppressor, I feel bad.
Yeah.
But if you can own a suppressor,
a 22 is one you guys start with.
It's the first one you should buy. They're generally super cost effective. Yep. They're easy to get into. There's a ton of good ones out there. I mean,
you quasi get that like Hollywood quiet-ish, you know. People are like, oh, 9mm or
this thing with quiet, CCI quiet.
Yeah.
I mean,
but yeah, I liked my Voodoo. It was just one of those things where I didn't really care that much about PRS, you know.
It just didn't fit a purpose.
It just didn't fit a purpose. And it was like a 12, 13 pound rifle, you know, and it was like, whatever. I had a Gunworks Rim Reaper. That thing shot awesome.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's one of their handmade Skunk Works builds that they did. I think they made like 100 of them. And being a dealer at Firearms Depot, we got one in, and I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool." So, you know, I scooped it up, and it blast to shoot, shot, you know, ragged holes, you know, nonstop. But I was just kind of like, But, you know, it's funny as the larger and larger our collections get, and, you know, as most of you guys know, like we have expensive builds. I mean, thermals and clip-ons and big bore rifles, and, you know, you kind of name it. You know, it's very easy for us to have a lot of money in them, and it's one of those things where, like, I always come back to 22s, and it's like you have to have these in your life, no matter how much. Adam is currently calculating how much he has in this build. And the number keeps going up.
That's a $7,800 rimfire.
Well, there you go.
To almost have $1,000 into a 22, it makes me sick. Please don't tell my wife, even though she knows.
It's a good thing that she and nobody else listens to this podcast.
That's true. She is our one listener. Hello. I love you very much, wife.
But yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny how over the years, you know, I've had exotic builds, I would say, like this, PRS builds.
As you get older, your tastes get more refined.
Yeah.
And, you know, we end up building up a collection, realizing we've got doubles and triples of the same thing. You weed them out and get rid of them, and it becomes more pointed. It's like, yeah, now you get stuff that support, you know, night hunting, my love for hunting in general. Like, you just start finding those finer points of what you want your collection to be. And like, your collection's very forward of, like, you like rimfires and you like integrals.
Right.
Like, you've got 3 of them on the table.
Yeah. And so, you know, we, you know, let's go through some of the philosophies. I mean, we've already talked about, you know, if you're wanting to build like a PRS trainer, stylish, and what I
put a PVS 30 in front of this and went and shot raccoons at night.
Yeah. And what I love about it, used to be people like Adam that wanted to shoot, you know, 22 PRS kind of style, you know, really heavy guns.
Like, the main focus for this gun is now shooting 22 really far.
Right.
Like, that is super challenging. I mean, you saw I was holding like 6 mils at 400 yards of wind, and was able to stay consistently on a 66% IPSC. And like, that to me is unbelievably challenging. And there's guys out there that are taking them out to, you know, 800 yards. It's the envelope for that is pushing what we thought you can shoot fires to. Yeah.
And that's, you know, but what I was going to say was, like, it's gone from that to really accurate hunting, you know, small game varmint style rifles, like a couple that I have here. This is one of my I would say probably one of my favorites. Yes, I've rattle canned it. This is
What high quality optic do you have on that?
so this is actually a primary arms that somebody gave me, or I got it in a, I don't know, I acquired it somehow, but I didn't pay any money for it. I know that. And I actually kind of liked it. It's a 4-14 primary arms. And this is a gun that I pretty much use as my critter getter ritter kind of gun. It's an older gun actually, or the action. This is a PWS toggle style, the biathlon. If you've ever watched like the Olympics biathlon,
it's a straight pull action. So it's basically a 1022 action body,
right?
But it is a single shot toggle lever action.
Yeah, so it has this really cool hinge on the bolt. It makes it really fast. You can run it really quick, like 2 fingers pretty much. I put it into a Magpul
John
chassis.
likes to cosplay that he is an Olympian from time to time.
That's right. I am. I cover up my eye with like, one of those like leather patches, and then I try to figure out why I just covered up my eye with a leather patch. But but here's what I'll say about this scope that I really, really like. I love the fact that it has a parallax that goes down to like 10 yards.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was just thinking about that. That's really important with scope selections on 22s, because most people like you, I assume, you zero around 50 yards.
Yep.
Where my gun, because it's a true center fire optic, like it doesn't parallax down. So I actually zero mine at 100. And it's only because that's where my scope is optimal at. Yep. With rimfire stuff, generally you want stuff that parallaxes down to those closer ranges. Some go down to the 20s.
This goes down to 10.
Yeah, I mean.
So that was kind of one of the reasons I stuck with this scope. It's in Seekins rings. This has a AWC integral suppressor. So this barrel is only, I think, like 8 inches long, and then the rest of it is just baffles for 8 inches. So it's a 16-inch overall gun. Shoots extremely well, and it's
what ammo do you generally run in it?
So in this one, lately I have been running the Aguila Super Extra.
Oh, is that the 60 grains?
No, that's the Super Sniper.
Oh, nice.
This is just Super Extra, and it works.
Does it still
works
smell
really
like
good.
eggs? Because all Aguila rimfire ammo.
I mean,
like
let's discuss ammo. I mean, it's dirty. 22 ammo is dirty. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I've loved this gun. One of the first, and it's funny, I brought this here just to kind of show this gun right here. This was probably like, I think I was 22.
Which was a long
time ago. Yeah, I'm like 23 now. I was 22 years old, and a buddy of mine worked at this gun shop, and he got these AWC Ruger 7722s in. And I've literally done nothing to this gun in like 15, 16 years. It's exactly how it was back then. Probably one of the quietest guns. I think this is the quietest 22 that I have. It's absolutely amazing.
I don't know. The one in front of me is probably.
It's such an old can. It's not even serviceable. Like
gross.
It is just
super gross.
It's a stainless steel, completely stainless steel. Like it's going to be one of those generational guns, that really never goes anywhere.
Is it like 4 pounds heavier now because of everything that's in it?
It might have a little bit of carbon up in there, but it's one of those things where it's super accurate, and I just love shooting this thing. It's one of those fun guns, and the 7722, I mean, it's timeless. Mm-hmm. Like it's never going to change. And what I love too is both of these guns, they share the same mags. I can take them in and out, BX15s, BX10s, BX25s if I want to.
Well, let's talk about magazines. I mean, because that's a huge thing for rimfires, because there are some out there that are atrocious and just terrible. Mm-hmm. And there's some like, the 1022 is a staple. It sucks to load, but it's a reliable magazine.
They always feed well. Yeah. I love the Ruger 10-round mags.
How are the BX25s? I don't have much experience.
Yeah, they work fantastic. I think, I've always found it weird. I think the BX15s are a little awkward to me because it's like 2.5 times the size of like a regular BX10 mag, but you only get like 5 more rounds.
Yeah.
So you have this thing that sticks down, this far, and you get 5 rounds in it. Yeah. Where a 25 rounder is not that much longer, and I get 15 more rounds in it. So usually it's BX10s or BX25s for me.
Yeah, and for my Voodoo, they did full-size magazines that are copies of AICS magazines. Yeah. They do both polymer and steel, but like these aren't cheap magazines. Like these things are probably, I think they're $100. Like it's obscene how expensive they are, but they work well. Like loading them's not a problem, but there are certain ones, i.e. that guy.
Oh, the Savage.
The Savage that don't have the greatest magazines.
Yeah, these magazines, I mean, there's
no help with loading them. You know, they're stamped metal, so
they are stamped. They can get sharp edges on them from time to time. That's my biggest complaint. I usually hit them a little bit with some sandpaper or Dremel. They can pop open from time to time, just little tiny
the one I had
pop rivets.
It just popped open in the back and split with
magazine. Yeah, usually when they pop open, they don't feed properly, correctly, reliably.
That's the word he's been searching for.
That was the word I was searching for. All the adjectives there. But yeah, I mean, this Savage gun I've had for a long time. I love this. This is the Savage Mark II FVSR is the model. Yeah. So it's a 16-inch fluted barrel that's threaded. It's got the AccuTrigger in it. Dude, this is a sub $200 gun. Mm-hmm. With a scope. You can usually find deals where it'll come with like a Nikon or Bushnell scope for $200. Like $198, you know? And this is one of those builds. This is kind of like a throw together build that I put together.
What can is that thing wearing?
This thing has a PTP Tactical 9mm can that I got a 1/2x28 thread adapter for and put it on. Listen, it has an uber cool look to it in a way because it kind of looks like a realistic...
The Cerakote job costs more than the gun itself.
Probably. But like it's one of those things where it actually has like, it looks like a big can on it because it is a big can. It's not a 1-inch 22 can. It's like a 1.5-inch big, huge can that I would never put on a pistol to rock life with. So I put it on here and I actually really like this can because it has like a real deep tone to it because it has so much volume. Like I don't think any gas actually comes out. Once the bullet passes. So it just has a really cool sound to it. And it's one of those guns where like, dude, if somebody says like, hey, can we go shoot? This gun's always zeroed and I give them mags and I'm like, they could shoot this thing.
Yeah, if it drops out of a truck, you don't feel too bad about it.
I mean, it's literally got like a $200 scope on a $200 gun and it shoots really, really well. 50 and in. I mean, even 100, but like 50. Like, dude, you can put little holes in things all day long. And so it's kind of something that's always around. If you want to talk about this thing a little bit. This is the current build that I'm still working on. Adam's kind of holding this up if you guys aren't looking. So I was inspired by Chad over at Iraq Veteran 8888 because
all the eights.
He finally put one together. But what this is a Ruger 1022. It is used by the IDF overseas for a myriad of reasons that a 22 would needed for. And I'd known about this gun for quite a few years. These have been in service since the 90s.
If you Google IDF 1022, you'll see it come up.
Yeah.
They use it for riot control, animal control. They use it for a lot of stuff. And it has a pretty sordid history because they basically kneecap people with a 22, but it's a really neat gun, and it's one of the only few like actual combat air quotes rimfire gun in existence.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I contacted the guys over at Liberty Suppressors, and they were willing to make me one just like Chad's, which is a replica of what they used overseas.
And doing it in typical John fashion, he sends them a kid match barrel.
That's right.
To do the base off of.
So I'm looking for this thing to be extremely accurate.
We need to go shoot this gun.
Yeah, and on top of it, I put an Arkin optic 4-16 on it. Once again, has really low parallax if I want that. These Arkins, I mean, it's hard to beat for a sub $500 optic. With the clarity of glass and stuff that you get, it was one of those things that
down
just
to 25 yards.
25, yeah. It was just one of those things where I was like, oh, why not? Let's just put it on there. So it's a super fun build. Throw it on the table.
What trigger did you put in this thing?
It has a full kid trigger in it also.
Of course.
And a mag release. And it was one of those things where I was like, you know,
what's your
I think about
number in this right now? How much of your child's college fund is in this?
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that my son gets my height, so that he gets
sponsorships.
He gets a basketball scholarship. Yeah, because there was some money that went into this one. But I bought a.
How old's the receiver?
It's like a 1980, like 83, I think. I found a brand new Ruger 1022 from like in the original box, everything.
And when we finally got it together, like we take the stock over into the wood shop and just start railing on.
Yeah, I took it over to our customs business, and I was like, oh, I got tools.
John just had me sketch out with a Sharpie, like,
yeah,
this is where the line should end in reference to the pictures that they have online.
Yeah, and we just went to work.
Yeah.
Put it on the bandsaw. Put it on the belt sander.
Yeah, we installed a sling stud for the front, so we could put a Harris on it. I mean, it turned out to be a really like fun project, and I think that's what, at the core of it, that's what 22s are. They're just fun at every single aspect.
Yeah, and you know, and it was one of those things where you can go, you know, full factory like Adam did here, and you know, spend money, but have an amazing product to show for it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't consider it a waste. Some people would, or you can go extremely.
Those people stink at life.
Or you can go extremely affordable stuff. But no matter what, there's a place in the 22 world for it. You know, and that's what I truly love about 22s. So last year for Christmas, my son turned 6, so I got him this little rascal. I had it Cerakoted just like some of my hunting rifles. Put a Trijicon RMR on the top of it because it's just super easy, like the red dot. You're not trying to line up a front post and a rear post on, you know, some iron sights or anything like that. It's like the rear dot, and he has a blast with that thing. Starting to outgrow it a little bit, but you
it's
know,
a gun that'll always be around.
Yeah, and you know, and I think he can, you know, hand it down to his kids one day, and you know, they'll probably look at his ancient technology, even though it has a Trijicon RMR on it right now. But you know, that's kind of how I got my son into shooting. It has a suppressor on it because it makes it quiet. You're not going to scare them with noise. You're not going to scare them with recoil. You know, and I'm talking little kids here, or females, if that's the case, or elderly people.
Or the Nickies of the world.
You know, Nicky's behind the camera. Don't take that, Nicky.
He's just going to edit it out.
He is going to edit it out. It's just going to be a blank. Like, but, you know, it's one of those things where I think that's what 22s allow people, and
there's something for every price point, whether you don't want to spend a lot or you want to invest a lot. Like, there's something for everybody. There's fun to be had at every level, and there's, you know, stuff that answers every question. Again, if you want to just build something cool and fun, you know, a 1022 with a threaded barrel is going to answer that question a lot better than, you know, my voodoo gun is. You know, if you want to shoot competitive rimfire or precision rifle stuff, you know, there's the Voodoos and the Rim-X's. If you want to shoot stuff really far away, like there's something for everybody. Yeah. Again, I think everything should be suppressed, and buying a 22 without a can is almost just like the worst idea.
I agree.
Maybe we should bundle some cans with guns.
You know, it might be a little thing. What is, if somebody said, hey, I'm thinking about getting a 22 rifle. I don't have one. I don't own one. Which one you think they should get?
I'd follow that up with 2 questions of, what are you going to use it for? And do you have a budget? Because again, like, I'm super bougie, so I can recommend stuff that's probably outside of some people's wheelhouse in terms of, you know, what they want to spend. But if it's something like, I just want me and my kid to go shoot every weekend, it's like, again, a 1022 with a 10 power optic, or an M&P 1522 with a red dot, you know, they're generally going to be all in, you know, gun, some kind of optic. You're going to be in the $500 realm pretty quickly. You can scale up from there depending on the options that you want. But yeah, for me, like, I first learned on a 1022. I think that's kind of what most folks did, unless you had like a Marlin lever gun or something.
Like a papoose or a takedown or something.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know. 1022 would probably be my like go-to because you can get the tactical ones, the hunting ones.
I tell people all the time, you know, the Ruger 1022 is like the Honda Civic. Yeah. You know, if you want to relate it to,
if you want to put 20s on it and a turbo kit, you
can. You know, I mean, you can put custom barrels in them, triggers, stocks. You know, pretty much every single part. It's just like an AR-15 or a Glock. Every single part you can replace, upgrade, and change multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part of the fun of a 1022 is you can literally have a 1022 with iron sights, and then, you know, put a pick rail on it and put a scope on it and and
there's tons of people that make clones of the 1022 actions that have integrated rails, cleaning ports in the back of the receiver. I mean, again, the sky's the limit. And the nice thing is that if you're on an extremely tight budget, you can build it piece by piece over time.
Right.
You know, buy the action, buy a trigger, buy a barrel, buy a stock, and then at the end, you know, you could do it as a family thing and build it with your kids. I mean, it's a very easy, flexible gun. There's a reason why it's been around since the 60s.
Yeah. Let's talk about ammo for a little bit, because that's something that I think it can be a rabbit hole for people, because, I mean,
unfortunately,
it's endless, the amount of options. I mean, just CCI, I'm like, holy smokes, I think you have like 8 different kinds of just subsonic ammo.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of the performance comes from the ammunition selection. You know, now because suppressors have been, you know, better and easier and more friendly for the commercial market, there's a lot of companies like Federal, Aguila, Lapua that are making factory subsonic that are optimized around suppressors.
Yeah.
But they also have their high velocity, the standard velocity, copper plated projectiles, lead, lubed lead bullets. I mean, it's just all over the place. Generally what I do is I kind of know what I'm going to use, like my voodoo. If I'm going hunting,
the purpose of it.
Yeah, I'm going to grab probably CCI standard velocity with a hollow point projectile, and that's what I'm going to shoot critters with. If I'm shooting a match, it's generally Center X because it's super consistent. And there's also like Lapua has 2 facilities here in the U.S. where you can send your rimfire gun to their facility, and they will accuracy shoot it out to 100 yards and then give you a selection of ammo saying, hey, you had the best performance with Center X in this lot number, SK pistol match in this lot number, and you can buy like 5,000 rounds of that. If you're serious about shooting rimfires accurately, that's the best way to go. Yeah. That's what I did with mine. But generally you buy a mess of ammo that's available to you. You find the one that shoots the best, and then you buy a whole lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things where you kind of always end up load testing no matter what. I mean, you have so many different rounds out there, and 22 I think is one of those things where I buy rounds just to try new things. And there's funky rounds out there too, which I love.
The CCI Quiet,
CCI Quiet.
It's 710 feet per second.
Yeah, and it's things where think about even if you live in a state where you can't have a suppressor, or you don't have the ability or funds to buy one, you can still get Calibre rounds, which, I mean, some are like sub 500, 600 feet per second. And
it reduces the range, so that way, like if you're shooting in,
but it also reduces the sound. Yeah. I mean, they're quiet. And what a Calibre is pretty much just the priming compound on the inside of the bullet. There's no powder in it, and so people know 22 bullets have very, very little powder in them. I mean, it looks like a small cartridge, but I mean, it's still you shake that thing, and there's a lot of gap in those things. Yeah. And the reason is for the most part, if you tried even filling it like halfway, like a 9mm bullet is about half filled usually, somewhere around there, you would just blow the back out of 22s.
Yeah, I mean,
all day long.
Even on my 22-inch barrel, like standard velocity is only 1,070 feet per second.
Yeah,
which is still really slow. And generally considered subsonic. But yeah, you have that flexibility, depending on where you're shooting and what you're shooting, to optimize the gun with the ammunition.
Yeah, and I shoot a lot of just standard velocity. I think it's kind of the best of sound mitigation and performance, trying to keep it from supersonic rounds, which supersonic rounds, if you're hunting, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck.
Speed,
you pick up a lot of speed.
You get a lot more penetration on the animal.
Yep.
You also pick up, like, if you make a bad distance call, 5 yards isn't going to mean the same as somebody shooting subsonic or standard velocity.
But it is one of those things where, when Adam's shooting long distance with his rifle, when the bullet usually becomes uber unstable and uber inaccurate, it's usually when it goes from supersonic to transonic or subsonic. When it kind of goes through that range, that's when the bullet gets really, really unstable. And that's usually where the loss of accuracy comes from. So you see a lot of rigs like this that are actually shooting standard velocity around that 1080, it's 980 to 1080-ish range.
It's an easier transition for a really optimized projectile to transition from standard velocity to transonic into subsonic. If you're going, Mach Jesus and it's fast, it's going to have some kind of ballistic instability as it's transitioning into those lower speed zones. And when you're shooting a bullet that's generally 40 grains, that's not, a high BC projectile, out at those distances, the more consistent it can be in that transition is that more consistent performance on target.
Yeah, and that ammo that we're, the different types of ammo we're talking about, it literally allows you to take a rifle with one type of ammo, say like a CCI Velociraptor, which Nicky can yell at me a number if he wants to. I mean, it's ballistic. You can get a lot smaller bullet. You can go down to like a 29 grain bullet.
But they were meant for killing critters. That's what they were meant
for. Or you can go all the way up to like a 60 grain bullet or a Calibre subsonic round, which get into, they can be 700 feet per second.
Yeah.
So when people talk about like a 22, it's made for plinking, like that is so far from the truth. You can.
It is, but more. It's great for plinking, but it's so much more. And the thing with all this ammo is it's not expensive.
Yeah.
You're talking, you can buy 50 rounds of good match grade 22 for what, 10, 12 bucks?
Mm-hmm. Or you could buy 500 rounds of cheap, Thunderbolts or.
Yeah, I bought 5,000 rounds of SK for $500.
Yeah.
Like that, while it seems expensive, is not. That is going to be probably my next 3 years of shooting for less than what it cost me to go shoot a class with a 5.56 carbine.
Right.
It offers you that flexibility to go have fun, get trigger time, and do it at a lower cost.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things, like I said before, like no matter what, it's hard to not have fun shooting 22s.
Yeah. Cleaning.
What?
Yeah, cleaning. Remember, lean in to be in.
What?
Do you clean your 22s?
I don't clean. I was actually looking at the 22s and I was like, ugh. And let's talk about that. 22s are dirty. It's dirty powder.
So yeah, for me, I don't clean the barrel ever. I've never seen any improvement or degradation on rimfire guns, but I will clean the actions on semi-autos because that's generally where they get the most junked up. I'm sorry, I actually do have another 22. I've got a 22-45 Ruger pistol that's suppressed. That I shoot those that get into the wife's vegetable garden. But you shoot that enough, it's going to get sludgy, it's going to get slow, it's going to decrease its reliability. But I don't clean the barrel. I just basically pump gun scrubber in it to get all the crud out of the gun, and then I re-lube it, and it's running for another couple thousand rounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where no matter how many 22s you have, if you catch the 22 bug, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you either spend a lot. Well, you spend a lot, period, because you buy so many, or you just invest it all into one place.
Yeah, and I try to tell people, like you don't have to spend a ton of money. Like I said, this Savage FVSR, it shoots really, really good for a sub $200 rifle that you can go have fun with all day long. And you know, you start realizing how much fun you have with it, and that's when it can get scary. You know, but for the most part, I mean, it's such an affordable aspect of the sport to get into that, you know, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, you owe it to yourself as a shooter to own one and to go out and enjoy it, and,
Right.
and you know, either build them or buy them, however you want to do it. But having it in your collection is only going to improve your collection.
All right, so let me ask, do you have any potential future 22 builds in the head?
I may. So the Voodoo's nice because I can change the barrel on it
Yeah.
at the house. So I may do a 17 HMR carbon barrel and you make it more of a dedicated hunting
I
setup.
have a Savage B17 at the house.
What is that?
It's a 17 HMR Savage. It's similar to like this FES 22, but it's got their new stock and stuff on it. And just so you guys know, the Mark II is the older version. You can get the B22s, which is the newer synthetic stock. They're kind of similar to like a Magpul Hunter stock in a way. They use a new rotary cartridge instead of the metal magazine. So Savage has kind of upped that game. Yeah, the 17 HMR, like squirrels, prairie dogs, things like that, like
Dude,
they're devastating.
I used to shoot those years ago when I lived in Maryland. It was the first time I bought my first rimfire was a CZ 452 and 17 HMR, and we'd shoot the 40 grainers at 600 yards, and it was amazing how consistent that gun and cartridge was.
Yeah.
And if I would probably do it again, and like I said, I'm going to make it more of a hunting-esque setup. But yeah, I think that's probably the only thing for me, unless I get like a Select Fire 22 rimfire, because that's a whole nother realm of just amazing fun.
Yeah. But you know, guys, I hope you enjoyed our little walk down 22 lane here, and you know, it's just one of those things where we were going to do a podcast today, and Adam was like, I don't know, what do you want to do? And I was like, let's just pull out some 22s. Like I'm finishing up this IDF build. So I just
want to
that.
shoot this IDF.
I had that sitting at my desk. So I was like, why don't we let's just do a little podcast on 22s. And you know, it's one of those things where that's usually where our podcasts come. You guys think we plan this for weeks and months. We don't.
Nope.
We just kind of wing it. But you know, if there's a podcast or a topic that you would love for us to cover, I mean, feel free to leave it in the comments below.
Within reason. We know that most of you are hooligans.
Yeah, you know, the reasoning, you know, that comes into play. But I hope you guys like this podcast, and if you did, you know, be sure to subscribe to us on whatever platform you're choosing to follow us on. There's so many nowadays for podcasts, and listen to most of them. So
yeah, make sure you check us out on all of our other social media outlets like Instagram and Facebook, and
that's right,
all the other good stuff that we're allowed to be on for now.
But yeah, and we appreciate, you know, each and every one of you guys. We love sharing some of our builds. We hope it inspires and educates, and we hope you have a great one.
Yeah, you guys have a good one. Thank you.
See you, bud.